Minutes of free show. All right, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and good night, everyone. It is Thursday, December the 11th, 2025. It's the FAK1180 show. We do this show Sunday through Thursday around 8 p.m. Eastern time. And that was your sister Janet Mead, the Lord's Prayer. And that's Frank's favorite song, Frank's favorite prayer, so I thought we'd do it for him. This is not a religious broadcast, so don't get the wrong idea at all. And I see there's a few people here. I know it's false advertising, but it said Tim Osmond was going to be on the show. But guess what? He bailed.
I'm fat and you're not.
Yeah, he bailed again at the last minute. So come on, Tim. You say you're going to be somewhere, make sure you show up. Huh? Don't you think that's only fair? Now, I have a message from Tim. I don't have a message. He put one on his YouTube channel, so we can look at that. Because you guys are all here for Tim Osmond, probably. And since he's not here, we'll just show you this.
Break to complete some projects while I await the book. So there's about a 10-day period here where I think there's going to be nothing going on. And I don't really expect anything big. So this is like the perfect time. Things are quiet. So in 7 to 10 days, I will be back with a regular schedule. So I'm going to have to wrap up some projects. I have some manuscripts that I've been working on that I'd like to try to bring one or both of them to a close before the end of the year. In addition to some editing projects, but I think I can benefit from the concentration, from having a focused work period just on the writing, not really multitasking, not spending too much time on the art, and something of a social media fast. I'm actually not going to be bothering too much with Twitter. I'm not going to be engaging all that much because, like I said, I really want to focus on bringing a couple projects to closure, or at least getting these things to a point where I can plan a good date where they could be conceivably finished. But right now it's so vague, there's no end in sight, so I've got to really hone in on what I'm actually looking at here. And that's with a couple of different projects. But the handbook is being touched up during this week, and I'll be ordering copies, depending on how many are ordered, on the 20th. So if you want a signed copy, just go to ips.monster or check your newsletter. But As far as where I'm going to be, I haven't decided. I'm just basically unplugging my apps and setting up a period of time where I will be undistracted, because I'm very easy to distract. I'm like a cat chasing a laser pen. And I don't think things are going to slow down at any point, but I do think things are slow right now. I mean, it just seems like every day is the same. They're just recycling this Candace Owens, Erica Kirk stuff because there's nothing else. And I think this is not a bad thing. You know, there's just a lull in activity.
All right, so that is his video to the world. I hope it's
Well,
not.
it's interesting that I don't agree with him at all that nothing's happening. Silver has gone nuts.
Silver has gone nuts. I put on a.
We talked briefly about this last week, but
Mhm.
you know, in my dollars, it's doubled this year, more than doubled.
Yeah,
tripled in 2 or 3 years.
And by the way, hold on, we got to say hi to CSL, our co-host. CSL has arrived in the house. Hello, CSL.
Hello. Apologies for my late arrival. I'm glad I was able to make it. How you guys doing?
Well, yeah, I wasn't expecting you at all, so this is a bonus.
I didn't think I was going to make it, but I'm glad to be here.
But you've thrown us a curvy ball.
That's right, a curveball, and it has been received and caught.
Because the funny thing is, Tim Osmond wrote to me at 5 Eastern and said he's not making it. And that's after he said he would make it after not making it Monday.
Yeah, it took me a minute after I joined to realize you were playing a video from him there. So he's taking a 10-day writing retreat. That's his most recent video, I guess.
Yeah, that's what he says. And because we're skeptics, we don't believe it. Well, do we believe it? Is that wrong to doubt a truther? I don't think so.
Wait, it's not. Well, it's not about whether we believe it or disbelieve it, is it?
It's strange behavior.
We don't necessarily know it's true. That's all.
I think it'll be hard for him to stay away, but I do agree with him. I've followed him a little bit on his own Discord as well, and he's said some things similar. He was kind of suggesting he was going to be doing such.
I know, but why would he say he's going to be on the show?
I don't know. Was he not on you with Monday? I missed Monday.
No, he didn't make it Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay.
And then I said, how about Thursday? You guys are accommodating as always, and there's always room. And yeah. And then he bailed at the last minute. He did email me, so that's kind.
Yeah, at least he didn't leave you hanging.
Yeah, well, I've always got Frank as a backup. Frank doesn't mind being kicked and brought back at the last minute.
Not at all.
He gave me permission.
I did.
So, yeah, so he didn't show up, and there's that video. It's all kind of strange, really. I know he's got some... seems to have financial issues, if I could talk behind his back.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he shares that with his Discord participants too. Yeah, that he's working on trying to figure out ways to make money and get his finances in order.
Yeah, that's where I get the idea from. It's not.
He doesn't hide it. He doesn't hide it. I mean, he doesn't broadcast it on YouTube, as far as I know, and stuff. But yeah, he doesn't hide it from his think tank folks.
Exactly. I don't always go in there. I'm spending more time in financial Discords now. Discord is pretty useful as a collaboration tool, of course. But
well, the man has, from what I've gathered, and not to speak behind his back either, but just from a person outside looking in, he's sort of like, reinventing himself, so to speak, after some major personal calamities with relationships and otherwise. He had to move, and he had some relationship difficulties. So,
I didn't know that.
I can hear that in his message there too, right? That he's got an opportunity to refocus, and he's also thinking that he needs to take a little, break from the social media IV feed that he's constantly involved in. I think any of us could take advantage of that. I mean, if it wasn't for my full-time day job, I would probably be plugged in like that too all the time. And even still, I'm probably plugged in more than I should be.
Yeah, I'm not as plugged in as I used to be. There's also nothing happening, really. Well, relatively speaking, in the PSYOP world, I think we can agree on that. Frank says other things are happening. But PSYOP-wise, what we like to bust media fakery, it's not... has there been anything really decent lately in the last week or two? I don't think so.
Not that I'm aware of.
You just go to Drudge Report and We can just try.
Well, it's just like Tim Osmond said, right? It's sort of, we're just rehashing the Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk event. That's kind of most recent psyop.
I think we're working with Venezuela now. I think that's the big one.
Yeah, I heard that news, right? That supposedly we took over an oil tanker from Venezuela or something. The United States did. The United States.
I don't believe any of that, actually, but I don't buy any of it. But yeah, we could just look at this and try and deconstruct that if we want, if anyone's interested. But yeah, overall, it's dull. Okay, we got Erica Kirk. And I just use Drudge Report because it's just easy to read.
What's he saying or pointing out about Andrew? That's Andrew Tate there, right above Charlie and Erica, right? What is that?
Yeah,
I can't read it.
I ignore these this Tate guy. I'm not going to read it.
Oh, same. I was just curious what Drudge was. Why Drudge was saying anything about him.
Well, yeah, Drudge actually doesn't. Yeah, okay. Well, Erica Kirk here is still sort of relevant. She's down the left side near the bottom of the column, so that tells you where she ranks in today's news. She's fallen off the bottom. But anyway, there's not a lot to chew on the main page. We could go to CNN and see what's funny there.
Ty Girl mentioned something I've heard about on the radio. The Somali community ripoff of over $1 billion in Minnesota via some sort of nonprofit. I don't know if you've heard anything about that. But I've heard about it on the radio.
I heard the No Agenda show talk about it. That's where I get all of my American news. And they didn't do a good job explaining it. So I did ask Grok. I asked Gemini, which is Google's product, only because I don't have to touch my phone to talk to it while I'm driving. I can just yell at it and it answers. But it was useless. So then I go to Perplexity. Perplexity.ai is quite good. They really upped their game, and it explained it to me. And I actually believe that story to an extent. And basically what happens is, as far as I could tell, the federal government under the Department of Agriculture, they administer food stamps or any kind of food money. So basically it's the farmer's bank from the Fed. So they funnel money from there, and they were paying the state Department of Education in Minnesota the money. They transfer them the money, and then the state pays all kinds of small little NGO type companies that take the money, buy food, and feed children. But those NGOs are being accused of buying all kinds of stuff other than food. Now, if they have their own management, well, management's got to be paid. They're probably all paying themselves 6 figures, and they're buying stuff, and it just looks really bad. So really pretty hard to blame Trump for this one.
Yeah.
But so they're saying, because I'm guessing the Somalis in Minnesota are probably among the poorer people, they're probably the ones that are getting most of the distribution of that money. And one thing is for sure, the immigrants from poor countries like Somalia, a lot of the money they just send back home because those people don't really have a way of making a living as subsistence farmers. So I think that's sort of one of the big criticisms, if you had to make one, of immigration that I can agree with, that a lot of the people that come from the third world, the money just leaves the country.
It's flowed right back. Yeah, exactly. It does.
Even if they work hard for it, you can't fault them, but they're supporting families back in the third world. So the money doesn't stay in the country, if you think about it, if that matters to you. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but what do you guys think of that?
Frank, I've always heard similar.
If it's US dollars,
go ahead,
of
Frank.
course it's staying in the country. I mean, the US currency is the world currency.
Well, yeah, we know. Frank's eating. Well, Frank, you can eat if you want. You can just listen. I don't want you to.
Well, it's similar to something that I've come to understand over time as I've moved into adult worldhood, and like at my employment, they have a thing where if I wanted to, I forget what the charity's called, but they can take a pre-tax donation out of my paycheck and give it to this common charity. I'll think of the name in a second. I was trying to think of it while you were talking, but it'll come to me. But anyway, it's something like that. It's not Salvation Army, but when I had looked into it, it was exactly kind of like what you were just saying, not necessarily giving money to third world countries, but like, let's say I gave $100 out of my paycheck. Well, supposedly 99 of it goes to the administration of charity, and $1 goes to the actual people in need. Right, so the CEO and the layers of management of the organization and so on are getting paid, but $1, of the actual money, if that is actually going to the actual charitable cause, and that seems to be very common across charities.
What is going to be the outcome
charities.
of this story? The outcome of the story is going to be more division between people. There's going to be a whole lot of reaction against, African immigrants as a result of this. There's going to be a lot of, again, it's about, in my opinion, all of the things that are going on now is to create division amongst the hoi polloi in their various guises and stop looking at the people up on top.
Well, there's always that. But there is a website. I'm not sure this is the right one. It's called CharityWatch.org. And I believe they are trying to determine how much of the money raised goes to good works, I think they call it. And it says here, groups included on the Charity Watch top-rated list generally spend 75% or more of their budgets on programs, spend $25 or less to raise $100 in public support, do not hold excessive assets in reserve, have met Charity Watch's governance benchmarks, and receive open book status for disclosure of basic financial information. Okay, what's the name of the Charlie Kirk Turning Point USA? Is that a charity? No, it doesn't even show up.
It is a charity, I think.
So it doesn't even rank. Well, yeah, universities are charities.
Oh, you mean like just being nonprofit in general? Where they can take donations and redistribute?
No, that's different. That's different. Let's see if Harvard's in there. No, none of the universities are probably in there, but they are charities, I believe. I guess I could ask the bot. But anyway, so we could look up and see if any of these.
United Way is the one I was trying to think of.
Yeah, United Way is one of the biggest. Is that Australia?
I'm not sure.
In Australia. It's very big here. Yep.
Yeah, and it's one of the ones that when I looked into it several years ago, that very little of the actual money that is donated is actually used for the charitable cause they claim. Yeah, primarily it just goes to fund the organization itself.
United Way is not rateable because they say because of its structure. And I think it's because it has so many local affiliates. It doesn't want to go through it. Boris is tired of Charlie Kirk, so he wants us to stop talking about that. Well, we haven't actually talked about it much, have we?
We just referenced it, but not. Yeah.
What about the Salvation Army?
Well, Tim Osmond brought it up too, talking about how the system is just rehashing it over and over as far as recent psyops go.
Salvation Army in Midwest gets an A minus. That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. All right, and here's silver. Frank wanted to see silver. Silver is 63.64.
That's just a huge jump. That's just in the last few days.
Yeah, you can see it.
Wow. $5, $6 in the last few days.
Well, yeah, if we can zoom out here on the map here. Let's look at this week. Let's look at this. This is the last month. So it was down here in the okay, that's the 50s. All right. So yeah,
that's a large jump from 50. Yeah. Well, it was 48.
Well, here's in the last year. So it was in the 30s, and now it's doubled.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
If you look at the last 5 years.
Yeah. Well, it's been pretty consistent. Around 30, and then it's hung out in the low 20s, and then the end.
So Frank's possibly doubled and tripled his money after he bought it 5 years ago.
Well, that and his Bitcoin.
Like zero Bitcoin.
So there you go. Silver. Way to go, Frank.
No, it's sorry.
How does that tie into what you were
is
saying?
it doesn't. It's really just saying that why there's no real discussion about it, but it is likely to be one of the most profound events in terms of what's going on with money in the USA and around the world. You're going to
Okay.
see a significant move away from people buying bonds, and also another precious metal series.
Take a look at this, Frank, and CSL.
Campbell's condensed tomato soup unit price per can.
Other products come and go. There is substitution, there is shrinkflation, but only one product can be tracked reliably over time to measure inflation at the grocery store. The consistency of Campbell's tomato soup as a product over the last 128 years has been available to consumers to buy, makes it an ideal product to follow to understand how inflation has affected the prices Americans pay at the grocery store. There's no shrinkflation for marketers to hide the price increases that have taken place for the product over time. You can clearly see that in 1971, when the United States abandoned the gold standard, inflation launched. And in recent years, our national debt has skyrocketed, further eroding the buying power of our currency. So there you go. That's all you need to know.
Well, the other thing you need to know is why is there a debt in America?
Mm-hmm.
It's American dollars. So who is the money?
In debt to who exactly?
Frank, we discussed this though. We owe it to ourselves. It's a circular problem.
Yeah, they claim we're borrowing it from our children, right?
Yeah, that's who you owe the money to. Your children.
But how do you owe it? I state again, if that were true, why doesn't the reset just simply involve the US government saying, okay, the debt clock is set back to zero?
Well, you'd have to ask someone smarter than me the answer to that.
Well, there's an interview with the top guy, who's in the Reserve Bank, and he's asked to explain how the money borrowing works, and he flubs around, goes absolutely nowhere.
Oh yeah, we saw that. We played that.
The whole point is that this situation is entirely. What I'm coming back again and again is the whole point here is to set up the idea that silver and gold are real money, and all the other stuff is not real money. Right? Really,
right,
money
like
is
the idea of the gold-backed dollar, right? The gold-backed dollar was real, now, but after that, it wasn't real, right? That's what you're saying?
Happened in the last 2 decades or 3 decades is that the large private banks and basically the JP Morgans and so on have basically accumulated large amounts of gold and silver. So when these guys, then the public, they basically, as far as I said, they're trying to get the public to clamor to go back to a gold and silver standard. Of course, who's got all the gold? Not them. All the gold people had got confiscated in 1933 in the USA. The whole idea of
I'm not sure that's true. Are you?
What do you mean?
All the gold got confiscated
from
the Fort Knox is empty, right?
No.
I don't know.
I'm just saying that the US people had always used to have gold, right? And in the 30s, the gold was confiscated. They were paid $29 an ounce.
Okay, that's not confiscated. It was
whatever. And then as soon as that happened, then the whole thing got revalued to $36 or $37, and then that's been held in place. But the point remains that gold and silver are no more or less useful than the way the current money system works. What the problem is that the money system is being abused relentlessly. I mean, the US government, or any government, in my opinion, we're saying any elected government, their primary responsibility should be to create and destroy currency and have it circulate through taxation or whatever process, with the primary aim of achieving the objectives of your organization, your country, whatever your country stands for. In our case, I would love to see it set up so that we had plenty of, good homes for people to raise their families in, and encourage looking after mums and setting things up so that mothers felt terrific about having children. And you could establish your policies and your money supply and the distribution of goods and services through the money, destroying and creating money as required to achieve those outcomes. But none of that occurs. Instead, the whole thing about this silver and gold stuff being real money is simply to cause more mayhem.
I think I'm following you, right? So, like, what is it that makes silver and gold have inherent value, right?
There is no inherent value in it. You can't eat it. And all the gold is slapped up in vaults anyway. There's no gold circulating amongst the population. That 99.9% of people in the world will have no gold. How is it going to get into their hands? It can't. So if money is set up as gold, then everyone is immediately disenfranchised from the economic system, and they've got to then go back into becoming a wage slave again. I'm not here promoting gold and silver. I'm simply saying to you what is really happening here is that there is going to be remonetization of gold and silver, and it will be not great for the average Joe.
Yeah, that's a theory I've heard before.
And Lynn Seigel simply says, "I'm asking for a jubilee." Absolutely, but I don't think we're going to get a biblical jubilee. I think we're going to get a devilish jubilee.
Well, of course you do.
So it's, what I think is very interesting is the complete lack of chatter in the mainstream media about what is going on with gold and silver and what the ramifications of it are going to be. As you see by that Campbell's condensed soup thing, obviously the current system by which the US creates money just creates more debt. At some point, it's going to be meaningless. The way they pay off the interest on the debt, I don't know who they pay it to.
Well, here's
just to create more money.
Here's what the bot says. So this has been floating around for a while. The idea that gold will be brought back in, it'll be revalued around $3,000 an ounce, and it just gives some scenarios of what could happen if that happens.
Lynn said she wouldn't eat Campbell's soup if she was starving.
well, there's been some theories and rumors surrounding some sort of release from some VP. I sent you the link there, Ab, just for a quick headline.
Okay.
Where some VP of IT or whatever was suggesting that, like, the chicken they use is fake. It's 3D printed or something. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, and that's chasing the bottom dollar. Like any publicly traded company trying to produce the product for as cheap as possible. Of course, it's a salacious headline, but supposedly it was something that was revealed on some recording that the VP of IT or whatever, like it says there. There's multiple other stories saying similar. But basically saying that, the things they even put in this soup these days. And that combines, just my own research into that a little bit. People are saying that they noticed that those people that do eat Campbell's soup, unlike Seigel, say that its taste has changed. Like it's nothing like it was when we ate it years ago as kids.
Well, a lot of it is to do with salt substitutes, by the way.
You think?
What a lot of the flavor of food is being altered by lowering the salt level, the salt content, and looking for alternative flavoring agents, because for most people, lowering the salt level makes the product not palatable. But people are familiar with for the sake of completeness, let me explain that the way that the USA calculates the inflation rate altered in the 80s where there was a process of, maybe they were looking at the price of T-bone steaks. Well, what was happening is they say, oh, well, you don't have to buy a T-bone steak. You could buy a cheaper cut of meat. And so there was been a process of altering the way that CPI is calculated by using product substitution.
Yeah.
Which is why this thing about the Campbell's soup idea probably makes
Well,
sense.
do we believe, as fakeologists, do we believe this Campbell's soup story?
I find it hard to believe that they would be making. I mean, who knows what they actually put in some of these processed foods? But no.
Do we believe this was a leaked audio? Do we really?
Oh no. But then
but
because it also extends to say, like, right? It says, I think later it says they fired that guy, even though they say he didn't actually say that.
But it is a part of the process of creating distrust of authorities and institutions across the board. Campbell's soup is an institution in the USA, and if people lose confidence in it, it will be just another part of this idea that, the quite incredible USA is weakened and being destroyed and all that sort of stuff. I think that interview with the Russian spy, whether it's true or false, it still points to the fact that there's been a massive attempt to demoralize the people of the USA and the organization of the USA.
We are following a messy situation for the Campbell's Soup Company today after a former employee filed a lawsuit against the company and then released audio his lawyers say he recorded during a meeting with executives. Let's go to CBS News correspondent Chanel Call, who's live in our newsroom. Chanel, what do we know about this lawsuit?
So, Liz, this lawsuit, we understand, was launched by a person by the name of Robert Garza. Now, Garza was hired as a cybersecurity analyst for Campbell's back in September of 2024. And, Liz, 2 months after he was hired, he says he had a meeting with an executive named Martin Bally to discuss his salary. Now, during that meeting, he is now alleging that Bally made several disparaging comments about Indian workers and also said that Campbell's is, quote, highly processed food for poor people. Now, CBS News did get a copy of that recorded phone call. Garza's attorney is saying that this was secretly recorded. So take a listen to part of that conversation.
I don't buy Campbell's products barely anymore. It's so healthy. Now that I know what the is in it, even in a can of soup, I look at it. We could eat bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer. Do you?
So Liz, Garza says that he actually told his manager about that phone call a couple of months later in January of 2025. And then he said that he wasn't encouraged to take that information to HR. Now, just 3 weeks after that conversation, Garza was told that he was abruptly terminated from employment. So Campbell's released a statement on this. I'll read you part of what they say. They say, "We are proud of the food we make, the people who make it, and the high quality ingredients we use. The comments heard on the recording about our food are not only inaccurate, they are patently absurd. We use 100% real chicken in our soups. The chicken meat comes from long-trusted, USDA-approved U.S. suppliers and meets our high-quality standards. All of our soups are made with no antibiotics ever chicken meat, and any claims to the contrary, they say, are completely false." The company is also saying, Liz, that Bally is on temporary leave while the company now conducts its own investigation. But this isn't the only legal trouble that Campbell's is now facing. I want to show you what's on my screen here. This is a social media post from Florida's Attorney General saying this: Florida law bans lab-grown meat. Our Consumer Protection Division is launching an investigation and will demand answers from Campbell's. So the state is now saying it's going to be looking into this company. So it's not just this one lawsuit. The state also now launching.
I kind of think it's advertising for Campbell Soup.
Kind of like the no news is bad news, really, right? No publicity. But I mean, I think it's even worth or more damning to suggest what the guy might have said, right? That it's food for poor people. That goes right back to your graph. If it's food for poor people, why does it now cost so much?
Well, it's just because of inflation and they can't shrink it. Well, this is Campbell Soup in the last year on the financial graph. And I only show this because I think everything relates to money and currency. So Campbell's,
Yes, I do too.
Campbell's at the beginning of the year was $42, and it's slowly done the opposite of silver. It's gone all the way down to earnings, which I was playing the other day, bottomed out at $27. So maybe this is just a way for them to try and tell everyone, no, we are not cutting corners with ingredients, and this fake story is something we put out there to get free publicity. Now, think about it. If they had to advertise the idea that they didn't use any fake ingredients, how much would they have to pay? How much did they have to pay for this so-called leaked story?
Oh, right.
Think about it. Nothing.
Whereas the controversy is free. The controversial side of it is free, essentially, right? From an advertising marketing perspective.
So all they had to do is put out a statement that nobody would have listened to otherwise. So there you go. That's my assessment, and just in time for earnings, because earnings came out a couple days ago, and it's a big day for all companies every 3 months. And if you're trying to get some juice into the stock, well, you want to get people talking about you.
Now, but aren't the PE and price to earnings ratios of all US stocks at crazy levels?
I wouldn't say
300 years to get your money back, don't you?
I wouldn't say all of them. This PE is only 14.65.
So that's saying you have to have nearly 15 years to get your money back.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that that's what actually it means.
And then after tax, because you'll get taxed on what your dividends that you get paid.
Yeah, I'm not gonna break down the numbers because a lot of the numbers are detached from any kind of reality anyway. But I just wanted to point it out. I think that was an advertising campaign, just like when car companies do recalls. You think that's a negative story, but I think it's a net positive story.
Well, that's an interesting point of view, Tim, and quite different to how I interpret it, I must admit. Because I just see it as part of that just full-on attack on American institutions nonstop now.
Well, you're implying that's from the North Sea Nexus, as Adam Curry likes to call it.
I don't know who are the North Sea Nexus.
Well,
I think
he calls it the royalty, the British
royalty, 100%.
The Dutch East India, the British East India companies that run the world.
Correct.
It's not the Jews.
The Crown Corporation.
Yeah, the Crown.
And the Swiss gnomes.
So here's something here on X, Chief Quattro. A lot of these guys are Bitcoin guys. They're very awake to the financial fraud that goes on. Whether or not you believe in Bitcoin, it doesn't matter. They are looking for an alternative to fiat, so that's what makes them relevant to me.
I guess the key problem with Bitcoin is that it can disappear.
What do you mean?
Well, it's unlike silver or gold. Bitcoin can just vanish.
But the problem is everyone has a ledger on their computer, so that's the difference there. It's not on one computer. Everyone has.
At what point would it vanish? It would have to be like a societal collapse. Yeah, no power. But I mean, ask that same question with silver and gold. What are you going to do? Like shave silver or gold off of shave off a bar?
Bitcoin is not going anywhere. It's on a blockchain ledger that you can put on your phone, and that wasn't possible a few years ago. Now, because of the extraordinary capacity of memory, it can always be everywhere. So everyone has a copy of it. So I disagree with that. But here's Chef Quattro talking about the whole Venezuela story. And I'm not sure about Susan Kokinda. I've heard this name before. But it says here, she presented a compelling argument that international drug trafficking serves as more than criminal enterprise. It functions as a sophisticated financial control mechanism for global elites. Kokinda explained how operations flowing through Venezuela and the British offshore Caribbean islands aren't independent South American cartels, but rather coordinated divisions of a larger financial imperial system centered around the city of London. This dope incorporated network generates trillions in dark money flows that directly support the global financiers' elite operations, whatever they are. Have you heard of Susan Kokinda?
I haven't, no.
I have not either, but I tell you what is brand new to me, and I'm curious if it is to you. The phrase narco terrorism is that something new
it
to
was
you?
used by the British in China. The
Hmm.
Opium Wars were entirely about when the Chinese government of its day tried to close the British out, and the British retaliated by bombing China with opium, virtually totally destroying the society in China at the time. You familiar with the Opium Wars?
I am. Is that when they originated that phrasing of
I don't
narco
know,
terrorism?
but whatever they call it now, it's still exactly the same process that was used in the late 70s.
Yeah, I feel like it's newspeak. It's newspeak that's being used to justify a particular type of action that's taking place, which they're claiming is the bombing of these drug boats, supposedly or allegedly from Venezuela. But they're calling it, anti-narco terrorism actions.
Well, it's basically competition if it's real.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of information and history and stories. I don't know if you guys have talked about it here on this show, but about the CIA with the drug wars and cocaine and Highway Ricky Ross and all that with crack epidemic and so forth, where they were literally flying planes from Colombia with cocaine on it, the government of the United States, to infiltrate this country. And now they're saying that it's only coming from the foreign government.
You're aware that the Taliban had virtually eradicated the poppy seed,
right?
So
and then the United States shows up to manage and run those poppy fields.
10,000 tons of heroin again.
Yep.
All protected by U.S. soldiers.
Yeah, Cy Girl was telling me Susan's a LaRouche. I actually like the LaRouche way of thinking. I'm not saying it's right necessarily, but
what's your summary of LaRouche thinking?
Well, I think it goes back to the Dutch East India Company and British American Empire.
All the way back to the actual Silk Road, the original Silk Road.
Yeah, that kind of thing. It's Susan Kokinda, and she also has the Prometheus thing I was telling you about before. The Promethean Daily News.
My assumption was that Susan Kokinda was a government official. Is she not?
No. Well, she's the chair, I think, of the Michigan Republican Party. But she's basically saying this is a America versus the British East India Company royalty types. That's her thing, and I think that's a LaRouche idea. So this is her channel here, Promethean updates. It's entertaining. It's sort of another way of looking at things. I'm not sure it's real, but it's alternative ideas. That's why I like it. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. The City of London and Venetia. Yeah, Cy Girl is saying that. So,
did you intend to stop sharing your screen?
Oh no, sorry about that.
Yep. You were talking about something you had on the screen.
It just dropped off. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Yeah, if the LaRouches think about we went to the moon, then that shows they're not exactly with it, but you got to pick and choose. You got to pick and choose. And just flashing back to the Minnesota story real quick.
Where did the Somalis fit into that, as far as you understand? That's what I'm trying to figure out just from the news stories.
It's probably the largest social economic group in Minnesota. They came in the last 20 years, so they're on the bottom of the food chain. And one of their charities, most of the charities, I think, were feeding those people because they're poor.
I heard that, right? It was supposedly feeding the children, right?
Yeah, well,
the poor.
Well, yeah, they are 501c3 charities. Feeding Our Future was one, and it lost its status in 2022. And then another one, Think Tech Act Foundation. Theirs was revoked in 2020. Stigma Free. Another one, it was basically distributing food during COVIDs. This is where all these things got born out of. And the last one was Somali American Ferry Boat Education. Similarly, they lost their charitable status as well. And just for basically taking the money and not being transparent to where it's going. But this is an old story. The question is, why is it coming up now? Why is it resurfacing? That's the real question. So there you go. There's that.
Lynn's put a comment here that I think is very salient and important. These charities render the people useless.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Okay.
people that are. If I'm misquoting your intention, Lynn, let me know. But a lot of the charities, basically are causing learned helplessness.
Okay. Well, it's like walking around with a crutch all day. Is your leg going to get better?
I heard some commentary similar to that from on one of the radio shows I was listening to on my commute from Newt Gingrich. He was supposedly has become involved in this, which is part of my initiation into this supposed fraud. He claims that this particular Minnesota Somali charity fraud is some of the worst or the worst in American history, like $1 billion of money. And that it's essentially that it was the way it was explained was that it was, if you ask people, if, can I give you some money? Well, then people will surely say, sure, I'll take your money. But then there's no checks and balances. And in fact, it's designed to be fraudulent or corrupt. But that's the most I know about. It's just what I've heard. And so I'm not normally one to just repeat what I hear, but it's a weird story, and it's weird to me that it's coming out right now. Supposedly, some of these programs have been around for decades, even in the state of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lynn is saying Webster Tarpley. He's maybe one of these guys that I've heard before on Alex Jones way back in the day. So he's still alive and he's still on X talking about stuff. I'm not sure it's any interest to fakeologists, but it's there. Mostly just recycling the same old war stories, I think.
I think it's at this point to me, it's an open secret that taxation and the money that we pay through taxation, whether it's through the United States or Canada or Australia, is ultimately corrupt and fraudulently redistributed. I think that's not a secret. I think that's obviously the way it's designed.
And there's no connection between the collection of taxes and the expenditure of the governments. They're two different things.
Right, especially when you tie into the ability to just print money on demand for inflationary, expansion.
Yeah.
Well, we have 58 people watching us on X. So that investment in X for streaming purposes was worth the money. So thanks everyone on X. If you're on X, just put a comment and say hi. And if you want to call in, the phone number is scrolling on the bottom of the screen. You can join the studio at shortfake.com/restream. We've already been going for 48 minutes. Can you believe that, guys?
Oh, wow.
That's quite surprising. Best show ever, though, don't you think, CSL?
Well, I mean, I agree. That's a good show. Although, honestly, if I'm being honest, I thought it was a little bit like Seinfeld, a little bit about much about nothing, a show about nothing for a minute there. I'm a little bit of the opinion of Ab that a lot of people, I would think that our audience doesn't necessarily find interest in this type of commentary, but I do. I know you do, and so does Ab. I mean, you had said, I think last week when we were on the show together, that money is one of the greatest conspiracies of all, right? Or the greatest fakeries of all.
Well, it's not so much. It's not so much that money is to me. I've got no problem with the concept of money. If someone, having an agreed way to exchange goods and services is a really good idea. No problem. What the issue for me is the disconnect between the elected government and the creation and control of money. It is, in my opinion, this. If you're saying you've really got a democracy, then the key duty and responsibility of any elected government is the management of the money supply, and to make sure that management is congruent with the stated objectives of a particular society. And the key problem here is that What does Australia stand for? What is Australia trying to achieve? What is the USA trying to achieve? Is it doing things for its people? If it's so, what are those stated things? You know, none of this is what would you call it? None of this is extrinsic anymore. We don't make it very clear what is the purpose of what countries are for. What are we trying to achieve?
That's a good question. Yeah. What does even patriotism mean at that point?
Yeah.
You know, if you were, you know, I'm an Australian, I'm an American, I'm a Canadian. I mean, to what extent? Other than the fact that you were born and raised or lived there.
Well, do we share the wealth of the country is the question that is always asked by nationalist types. Do we share in the resources? The answer, of course, is no.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
We get to work to help harvest the resources, but we don't get our alleged share. That's, I guess, the main problem.
We're back into the idea of being we're the slave wage class. I mean, if unless you're independently wealthy and don't have to work.
Well, the ultimate cartoon video on that is that thing about the plantation, which I just think is just brilliant. Have you seen that?
I think I know what you're referring to. Yeah. Do you have a quick link to it?
No, I'd have to look for it, but I'll do that.
I think I know what you're referring to.
Chat amongst yourselves.
Oh, by the way, Canada is developing their own digital ID app, but I think it's going to come through the big tech bros. Google and Apple have their own digital ID that they're going to be selling as well. Not selling outright, they're selling access to.
So I have a question related to that, right? So the conspiracy theory, if you will, the idea, you know,
it's not a conspiracy.
Well, what I'm saying is the conspiracy theory of the idea of why they would need to be able to identify each of us, right? So go over to Europe and their recent censorship laws, right? You know, where people are getting supposedly, I know this is controversial even with some of our former or current fakeologist participants, actually being arrested for such, right? You know, kind of like even with back in the day with anti-Semitism. But supposedly there's stories out there of people being arrested for things they've said on Facebook or other social media, and that certain things are restricted and censored. That has not yet come to America. The idea is that it may. But even when, like, for example, Elon Musk himself took over Twitter, he had suggested early on, I think it's been a couple of years now since he took over Twitter and turned it into X.com, that he needs to implement a form of digital ID to, you know, validate and identify the actual real humans that are on the platform. And I can see some value from that from a technicality standpoint or a technical standpoint, right? Are you real? Am I real? You know, if I'm just providing text-based or other type post information, Reddit's useful for that too, right? You know, someone on Reddit posting something, are they real or are they a bot? If there was a way to validate that. But there's a conspiracy theory that's deeper, you know, about the control system and the control matrix that's supposedly coming and in progress. Much like Frank, you might attest to this a little bit from like the idea of, you know, the mark of the beast, the 666, you know, that everybody has to have an identity, an identification, a number. I'm curious if it really is just benign or innocent, or if there really is actually that control mechanism in place. Like, you know, here I am talking on this platform under a pseudonym of Curvy Sexual Lady, CSL. You know, I'm not actually using my real name. I'm using my real voice. Yeah. But, you know, are we getting to a place that where if we were to actually have to identify ourselves to use these platforms and share these ideas, that we're risking our censorship and or, you know, job loss? I think we saw some of that happen during like COVID, even with the recent Charlie Kirk hoax, as evidence there in that picture. There were people claimed to have lost their jobs because they said negative things about Charlie Kirk after he died. You know, school teachers or others and stuff. Even here in America, that was a story that was being passed around that people were losing.
Oh, there was an article I just saw popped up onto my screen this morning. Trump is demanding that the Australian government allows it to have access to the Facebook accounts of anyone wanting to enter the USA. So,
I've heard similar stories, right? That there's like some of them seemingly absolutely ridiculous. Like there's people that supposedly got off a plane from a foreign country here in America on U.S. soil, and as they were going through customs or whatever it is, right? They have to look through their phone, and they found they had memes of like J.D. Vance or something, and or memes of Trump, that were funny, and they were barred or denied entry into the country because of that.
yeah.
I don't know if I believe that, though. I mean, it goes back to what Ab was asking earlier, but even about the other story about Campbell Soup and stuff. Like, do we believe these things? But it's certainly the narrative we're being told. I don't know anyone that's experienced it personally.
I never believe the official story of anything. I always look for the alternate explanation. And the digital ID can be used for so much, but I think it's mainly financial. I think the benefits of limiting your speech or threatening to limit your speech by penalizing you are ancillary. I think the main focus is just to make sure they can track every single thing you do financially around the world. Because if borders do come down and people are more fluid and able to move around the world, which is the free trade of labor, which is sort of one of the last things that isn't traded freely, then they can just track you around the world to what you're making wherever. And that will just probably go on a blockchain again that can be looked at by any government or any institution anywhere just to see make sure.
And ultimately track down to an individual wallet or potentially an individual person.
Just to an individual. Yeah, that's the main thing, is just to track all business so they can just control it, tax it. I mean, taxing is a form of control, but I think it's as simple as that.
Well, my issue is that I think that there is the reason for all these things is, to lead to the fulfillment of the end times, the biblical end times.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
I realize that. I'm just simply saying my view is that the whole reason that all of these controls are being placed on people is simply to get, to that end times point, to have people compromise the things that they know they should and shouldn't do. Like if you're put up to the point where you're told, oh no, you can't get this money unless you abort your third child and so on, like was happening in China, then people are going to do things that conflict with their.
We were told it happened in China.
Right. I don't know anyone in China. Not to say that it didn't happen, but I don't know anyone that it did happen to.
Well, that was the official policy, but
like Cygirl just said, livestock management is the reason. I shared you a link there. If you want to share it, it does have porn in the name, but it ties into the idea of what you were saying about it being about primarily financial from a control perspective, right? So Steam is a gaming platform, one of the top gaming platforms for computer games. And they were recently, a few months ago, last 2 or 3 months, were forced into a position that Visa and MasterCard, their payment processors, told them that they could no longer sell these potentially, these adult games, right, that had adult content in them. And that if they didn't, they were going to stop them from being able to accept payments for any of their games. And so they were literally put their back against the wall. And when you think about it, right, so Steam is much like Netflix or Amazon or other movie distribution platforms, for example, in a similar fashion, are being, the way we pay for them is with a credit card. And if the credit card processor says you can't buy that stuff because they're not going to process a payment for those things, well, then what does the producer or the platform or the publisher have a choice? At the end of the day, they have no choice. That's what Steam was. Steam is the largest gaming platform on the planet, the most profitable. They're privately held at the moment. They're not publicly traded, and they were their back was put against the wall, and they were forced to remove these adult games, if you will, adult themed gaming. And I don't really care one way or the other. I'm just making a point about the control aspect of it from a financial perspective. That if you don't do this, then we're not going to let you process payments for all the other games that you're making millions of dollars, every day or week or month or whatever on. And so they had no choice. They were either going to continue to accept Visa and MasterCard as payment processors, or they had to get rid of this content.
And it's a question then of whether or not the people involved in these kind of it's really a strong arm tactic, can then use the legal system to appeal against that kind of abuse of power, isn't it? The issue is if you're told that you can't take those payments, and it turns out to be that's extortion of some kind or racketeering in some way, will the legal system?
Yeah, that is racketeering. Yeah, I agree with that.
Will the courts be able to enforce this on private companies? Because as Tim, you have pointed out many times, private companies can do all the things the government wants them to do that they can't do.
Right. That's why they have public-private partnerships, so they can get around that.
And that's and I think you really, in my opinion, you hit on that very early, or several years ago when the COVID nonsense was going on, that what the government is not allowed to do through its constitution and so on, they can do it
by contracting out
the services.
And really they just put mandates out, and they were guidelines, policies that other corporations that make policies, and they can only control the people that work for them. Policies only apply to the people that work for the corporations. So the government's policies really only applied to the members of that corporation, of the government of Victoria, or government corporation. So they're just policies, though. But they couldn't even.
That's the same in the United States. It was the mandate for the jab was federal, and only if you were a federal government employee. But then somehow, some way, that then extended by default because of the companies involved. They were at risk of losing their federal contracts if they didn't also participate. And so that then extended to thousands of organizations.
That just proves that everything is maritime law. It's corporate law.
So that gets back to the point I was making before, Tim, that it's not just about money. It is about being controlled to do things that are against your conscience. And, I'm saying that this fits in very well with the biblical idea that we're our enemy is trying to separate us from our God. Now, I'm just pointing that out simply because that's the way I think. Other people are going to have different models. But I think the whole purpose of what we're experiencing is spiritual, not material.
Mm-hmm. Here's another graph from the Bitcoin crew.
You could turn that around too, Frank, to say that the spiritual, if that is the case, is being manipulated through the physical control mechanisms.
Yes. Yeah, that's the corollary, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Here is the trillions of United States debt that expires next year. There's the graph. So, in other words, this is going to roll.
It's coming due.
They're going to have to roll it over into today's interest rate. So this was.
But who gets that? Who is that money owed to?
All the people that buy the debt, which is all kinds of you and me. Again, I keep saying it's owed to us.
It isn't me.
Well, if you buy any kind of instrument that buys United States treasuries, then
I don't.
It is you. Well, maybe the Australian government does.
Does that even include U.S. dollar promissory notes, right? I mean, it says notes and bonds.
No, it's U.S. It's T-bills, I believe. United States T-bills, treasury bills.
Okay.
That is the main instrument. So that's what's due next year. So are we ready for that? Is that when is this bomb going to drop? I mean, I guess this is all
unless there is a point where unless there was a point where they simply say, "Oh well, okay, we owe you that much. We'll give you all these these dollars or whatever it is you want, and that's it. And as I said, the government can create those, whatever it is.
I know, but Frank, the net result is going to be inflation and more
Absolutely.
inflation and hyperinflation.
Yeah.
You think your
So
$60
what
steak
is the
is expensive now?
What is the reason then that the US government embarked on this as a way of creating money? It never made any sense. It always had to end this way. Whereas if they had simply been the backer of their own currency, which has happened many times in history, they would simply bring money in and out of circulation as required to suit the activities of the, what their country, if you like, was doing. So none of this makes any sense. This decision to just constantly get to a point where, as we know, anything to do with interest goes hyperbolic at some point.
Well, the question is, what is going to happen? And I think it's just more of the same, more faster inflation.
Well, what I think is going to happen is you're going to be put onto a gold silver standard.
Well, that might be the reaction to hyperinflation, but I think hyperinflation will come first. And then
I'm curious how that fixes it, though. Or if Frank is suggesting that fixes it.
Well, what will happen is that everything then will be effectively measured as so many grams of gold and or silver, or a combination of those things. Yeah. And that immediately constrains the money supply, and it's going to cause all sorts of mayhem. Well, for a start, a lot of people just don't have any gold and silver, so they're basically going to go back to zero.
And in the simplest of senses, if I could suggest, right, and I may be oversimplifying it, but the reason that gold and silver and even Bitcoin and similar cryptocurrencies have some presumed value is because of their known scarcity, right?
Well, okay,
there's a finite
as far as I know, people say
that
gold has value, but the amount of gold that's used industrially is zero. Practically every gram of gold that was ever mined is still in existence in a vault somewhere. Silver gets used, iron gets used, copper gets used, and so that I guess that was the reason. It's a reason why it can work as a currency, but the issue is not about whether it's useful or not. It's about the fact that once they go to a gold, silver, and copper currency system again, that means that the wealth is going to become incredibly concentrated. The guys that have
for those who actually own it, right?
Yeah. Everyone else has just got nothing. They've literally been returned to paupers.
And we're back to promissory notes, right? The idea that you could take this piece of paper, go to the bank, and actually exchange it for some form of gold, silver, or copper, right?
That's gone. And that's the issue, and that to me is the problem with Bitcoin. If no one wants to honor the Bitcoins, then they're of no use.
Well, I honor Bitcoins here at fakeologist.com/donate. So if you
want... But you also honor Canadian dollars and US dollars and Australian dollars.
I take it all. Absolutely.
He even takes Satoshis, a fraction of a Bitcoin.
You're not a proud man, and that's neither should you be. I'm simply saying that when this thing happens, it's just going to be a total shock. You look at that graph you just showed us.
It's going to be a slow melt. It's not going to be. I don't think there's going to be an overnight shock. I don't think so, but it will. It'll be fast. It could be fast. It could be a nothing burger. I just put the graph out there for people to observe. So if something does happen inflationary in 2026, you'll have a clue. Maybe, as you brought up at the beginning of the show, maybe the silver being hoarded has something to do with it, because
it's simply the symptom of the end, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, we're talking around the idea of unraveling the mystery
I
of
don't
this
like
all.
the end idea.
There's something going on.
I'm not an eschatologist. It's not the end. It's just the next phase. It's not the end. There's no end.
Sorry, so your view is that there's no
collapse.
No
Would you say no collapse, Ab?
There is a biblical.
There's no.
There is a Bible.
No collapse. No.
Which has a book at the end that says this happens and then this happens.
No. It's just there's going to be the next stage in the
Well, even
in
the
changing
Bible
of-
says there is the next stage. The next stage is those that are chosen go on to eternal life and
Well,
live
The
in-
tribulation.
Well,
The
those
rest
that
that
have-
remain
way
are in the
past all that.
tribulation.
those
This
that
is
have
after the great
silver
white
can
throne
go to the
judgment.
next level. The rest of them, digital ID to get your food crumbs. That's it. But you're not
And
it's
and
not
then the
that-
digital ID will force you to only be able to buy the food crumbs that are approved.
right, because then they can actually, and this maybe the Somali scandal is part of it, because literally the government gives money, they pass it to the next level of government, and that department passes it on to private charities that are supposed to distribute it, and then they steal it and feather their nests and buy cars, and then they give 5% to the starving children. Yeah, and I know they might not be starving. I don't know why anyone in this day and age can't make oatmeal. It's super cheap, but that's just what happens. So maybe with digital,
Ab, I had a friend of mine that was a coworker that has since moved on, but he moved from Haiti. And I asked him about why did he and his family move to America, and they moved when he was a teenager, and then he later had his own child. And he says, "Well, we chose America because even the poor people are fat."
right? Yeah, I've heard that so many times. I have heard that, and that's sort of a common trope, but I've heard it. But again, maybe the idea is instead of issuing another $10 trillion, well, the next wave of money will supposedly help fix these issues where when they hand over money and it gets unaccounted for and it gets squandered, this way maybe they can have a little more control over it. So that one, whatever unit of currency is, all goes to good works and not to being stolen or grifted or bribed or frittered away on the wrong thing. So maybe.
But remember that money doesn't do the thing that you want to do. Money is the motivation to get people to do the actions. People have got to feed each other. People have got to help out other poor people with their actions, and they grow food and they do all of these other actions. So the cure, in my opinion, to all of this is really the volunteerism. At some point people need to be ready for a breakdown in the way that these things happen, simply by establishing a, if you like, a network, an ability to, just get through this just by helping each other out.
Well,
it gets that simple. The idea that you have to have money to do anything, money doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can't eat it, like you said.
Well, hopefully,
but it does provide food.
I'll take my help.
Food is grown provided by God, right? There is a system
I'll take my
on
help
that.
in the form of money right now. I don't need any other help. The only help I need is
I think you should close the show with money from what is it? It's a Gas.
Yeah,
Pink Floyd, Money.
Pink Floyd, yeah.
I'm kind of sick of that song. That's
come on, put it on.
Oh, I don't even like it anymore. That one is played to death.
Money.
There are a lot of funny songs.
It's a Gas.
There's so many better Pink Floyd songs, but I don't feel like playing it now because we got to go. We've been on for an hour 13. It was a good show. Different. This is sort of a chat.
I think we've had a good chat. Yeah, we've had a good chat, I think.
It's a very good chat. We didn't even have a caller in her tonight, and it's too late to call in now if you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I missed Jay from Texas and John the Beggar from the St. Lawrence seashore, the South, or whatever.
Yeah. And the phone lines were open.
Just know that we've mentioned you in dispatches.
Yeah, and we played the John the Beggar song twice this week. I don't know if you heard that Portal Complex from the IPS.
Yes.
World, he created a song quite quickly using AI as well. And hopefully we can get other songs from him or anyone else. That's value for value. If you want to do a song for us, I'll play it. It'll be an intro song.
Lynn says you should go out with Money from ABBA.
Yeah, money. It's a rich man's world. I like that one too. They're all good. But anyway, it's the end of the Fakeologist week. On the weekend, we have the Discord. And really, next Sunday, I guess we have Prophet of Fiction on Sunday. I'm not sure if people are enjoying that. Some people are, I guess. And we don't really have any other guests that are scheduled because the year is wrapping up. But
And what is your Christmas schedule? What's your Christmas break?
well, I don't even know.
It's gonna be CSL and Frank on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, really. Yeah, Cy Girl says newborns will get Trump crypto accounts. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's part of the story going on right now.
Maybe, yeah.
Michael Dell and his wife donated like $6.5 billion or something supposedly.
Yeah, that was a strange woman, strange looking woman. I don't know if she had plastic surgery, but it's very transpicious as well. But yeah, I don't really have a schedule in mind. Tim Osmond says there will be no psyops for the next 10 days. That's good news. So he doesn't need to be on duty, but we'll be on duty, I guess.
But we'll soon find out if he's a false prophet or not then.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, we've got probably next week for sure. We'll do some shows. And then after that are the last 2 weeks of the year going into the new year. And I'm guessing it'll be pretty sporadic because people do what they do. But it'll be supply and demand, maybe. I still like to get on there because I have a couple extra days. What are you guys going to do? Anything differently?
I'll be around. I get off a few days after Christmas, but I'll be around.
I'll be around too.
All right.
I've got grandchildren around, so I may have to sneak upstairs or something.
All right. That's good. All right, guys. Thanks for chiming in. And
my pleasure, Tim. It's a privilege.
Yeah, thanks for both being reliable on Thursdays. That's
and thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, this has been a pleasure. I enjoyed. I think me and Frank are getting along, and I'm enjoying the little banter back and forth. We're having a good time. I'm enjoying it.
Oh, good. Well, Frank gets along with everybody.
He does, and so do
everybody. That ain't true.
Oh, it's pretty true. Pretty reliable. Pretty good guys. All right, guys. Thanks.
I want to throw one more thing in, Ab, if I can. If I'm sure you're going to throw it in there, but in light of the entire conversation we've had for the last hour and a half ish, fakeologist.com/donate. Fakeology will take whatever currency you are using. It's all set up there,
and all the websites, all the different podcasts. Their donation, their value for value are way down. Except the No Agenda show, they still do pretty well. But overall, I think we don't really get too much, but it's fine. I got some positions on for earnings season today, so I think it worked out. So I'm trying to make my own money, and I use it to cover most of the expenses here at the website. But we do have regular donors, and you're one of them, Kirby Sexford Lady. So I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. I'm here to help keep it going, and I would like to encourage anybody else to do the same.
Years and years. You're right underneath this Leonard Tell person here.
Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. If you enjoy the show and enjoy even some of the shows you don't enjoy, but just to have the opportunity, the platform, let's keep it going. That's what I'm here for.
No, I appreciate that. All right, guys. Thank you. Take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye all.
See you.